Chapter House proudly presents Every Life Has a Story to Tell.
So I was born in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. My dad actually has an Italian background and my mum is a Pom. And my dad's family came out here, and he was actually the only one in his family that was born in Australia. And my mum came out here when she was about, I think 35 or 36. Funnily enough, I was actually born the first year that they got together, so you do the maths on that one. But yeah, always been down the eastern suburbs, and I went to school in Kilsyth, and I love school. I played a lot of sport. Believe it or not, I actually played a lot of basketball when I was younger. I was quite fast. I couldn't dunk the ring, obviously, but I enjoyed the athletic side of things. But my dad and his brothers have always had a motorsport background, and they were pretty keen and eager to get me into motorsport at a young age. And my uncles actually did a bit of car racing themselves, so it was always sort of probably inevitable that I'd have a go at it. And when I was actually 6 years old, my dad was doing a bit of go-karting, and he actually used one of his old go-karts and he cut it down and shortened the go-kart so I could actually reach the pedals. And I drove the cart around a basketball court. So I went round and round and round, sort of got my head around it a little bit, and got to the age where I was old enough to actually get my license. And at that stage, Dad was doing some karting, and he thought it was a good idea to let me loose. And I did a lot of practice before I actually got to race. And when I was old enough, I got my license and started karting. And I remember the first race that I actually did. I did okay. We finished 5th in that race, but I was so eager to get a trophy that not that they gave trophies to 5th, but I made Dad hang around for a bit longer, and just to make sure. I think I actually got an encouragement award that day. Certainly not. Travelling to Bathurst each year, racing in many different categories. I've been lucky enough to actually get on the podium a couple of times in different categories, but not in V8 supercars, not at that top level. And V8 supercars and Bathurst 1000 in particular is one of those events where it's like the Melbourne Cup. If you're not really into horse racing, but you still watch the Melbourne Cup, and Mount Panorama and the Bathurst 1000 is one of those events. And to stand up there at the end of the really hard race, it was wet all day, super tricky conditions, and to get a podium was just a huge highlight. And the amount of people that actually saw that really surprised me. So it sort of goes to show that a lot of people watching that event, and it was a really big sort of feather in my cap, you know, in my career, something I've been working for a long time, and all that hard work and you know, all those tears along the way, and good results, bad results. On that day, it all sort of came together, and it really sort of shows you why you get involved in motorsport, and it's something I really won't forget. So this year, going to Bathurst, the Bathurst 1000, with Fabian Coulthard again in the Shell V-Power car, and I can't see a reason why we can't be contenders for the event. Fabian is going better than ever. The cars are fantastic, and I think I'm in a good spot myself. It's one of those races where, obviously being an endurance event, you got to have some smarts on board during the day to actually make it to that last couple of hours and actually go for the win. There's no good being the fastest guy but crashing the car early in the day or taking a risk. You've really got to evaluate the whole day and sort of be one step ahead and really looking at what our goals are. And the goal is to be on the lead lap, you know, a couple of hours to go, hand the car over to the main guy, everything's running well, and hopefully our strategies will play out and we finish on the top step. But I've been told before by other drivers, you know, if you win Bathurst, it really does change your life. And while I haven't won it yet, you know, getting that podium last year certainly does make a change in your life. And like I said, it was a big tick, and hopefully I can go a couple of steps closer this year. In my life so far, I have unfortunately lost a few friends in the workplace in car racing. One in particular, we were racing at a high-speed circuit, and I was actually in the race myself. And there was an incident. I got the call over the radio that there was a big crash. The race was going to be stopped, and I didn't know who it actually was at the time, but I knew it was quite serious. They stopped us on the front straight, got us out of the car. The race was stopped for a long time. All the television cameras went down, which to me indicated that it was a very serious incident. And unfortunately that day, my friend lost his life, and it probably at the time didn't hit me so much until that night when my mum actually gave me a call. And she's been pretty cool with my racing over the years, but she was pretty worried on the phone. Actually asked me if I actually wanted to race again, wanted to go back out there tomorrow and do the next race. And at the time, I was pretty young, and I thought, yeah, no worries, I'll get out there. But it was a really unfortunate incident because motorsport is such a close-knit community, and everybody's family, the kids, their wife. And on that day, unfortunately, the wife and the kids lost their husband, and it's just a really sad story to tell, and something that really stuck with me for a lot of years. And now I have my own family. It does hit home a lot more about, life is precious, and things can happen pretty quick, and you got to be on the ball, especially in a race car. And as a father, I've got a beautiful 3-year-old boy, and obviously a beautiful wife as well. I'll probably think about things a little bit more in my life than when I was younger. And an incident that occurred in my motorsport was racing a GT3 car at Bathurst. And those cars are very quick across the top of the mountain. And I came up to a slower vehicle, and I thought the car had actually seen me. And I went to go past the car. At that point I was in control of the car. Unfortunately we made contact, and I went from being in control of this Ferrari to actually being out of control and having no control of the car, and crashing the car very heavily. I basically pinballed down the mountain, and it was a painful experience. I rode off a Ferrari in the process. But for me at that time, my wife was actually pregnant with our son, and it did hit home a lot more because I never really probably thought about the danger of motorsport as much. But when your wife's pregnant with your first child, suddenly you do question, I suppose, some of your decisions. And from that moment on, I really sort of took the safety side of things more serious, and I assess whether or not I actually need to take as much risk in every time I hop in a race car. And that's purely because I've got a family to think about now, and life sort of changes along the way. So, and changes for the better. That's the next stage of my life. Having kids and enjoying the process of nurturing them when they grow up as well. And the motorsport side of things is obviously giving me a lot of opportunities. But the next stage of my life obviously is being a family man, and I don't want to miss out on any of that. My name's Tony D'Alberto, and every life has a story to tell.